Dr. Nasiphi Moya, welcome to IOL. It's nice to have you. Tell me, first question, are you the front runner for Action SA in Tshwane? And will you accept the nomination?
I should hope so. And yes, but for now we're just focusing on building the case on why I should be the front runner. You will recall that I'm new in the space, relatively new. I've only been a public rep since beginning of 2024. So we have used the work in Tshwane to showcase what Action SA can do when in government, but also myself as an individual. I need to convince the residents that I'm the best person to do so. So there hasn't been a pronouncement in terms of the mayoral candidate in Tshwane, only Ekurhuleni from the side of our party. But for the work that I'm doing, I can't start this work and then we introduce a new person, but there must be a case that is built that I'm the best person that can represent our party in Tshwane.
And October was 1 year since you've been mayor of Tshwane.
Yes.
Looking back at your first year as executive mayor, what would you say has been the most profound personal and political lessons from leading a city as complex as Tshwane?
Firstly, is the recognition that is a complexity. So Tshwane is very interesting that it's been in existence for over 160 years if you trace every corner of the city. So your Paul Kruger stories, the history of the Union Building, track it all the way to Boputa Tshwane, the former Boputa Tshwane homelands that needed to be incorporated in Tshwane. What it gets you is that city is complex with many divisions within it, and the first thing for me as a student of nation building was to say, so how do I lead people like this, where you've got people in Winterfeld that have never met people from Waterkloof, and chances are they won't meet each other anytime soon unless you do something profound. And so firstly, from a leadership point of view, for me was to be sober about the divisions that are plaguing the city of Tshwane, that are happening on a day-to-day basis. At a personal level, I mean, the position has never been a dream for me. I've never dreamt and say, you know, those, when you're a teenager, you dance those hats and say, mayor, around executive mayor. I've never done that. And so I had to learn to be an executive mayor in the job. I've never shadowed anybody. Before that, I was a deputy executive mayor for 8 months. While I was still getting comfortable in that position, then I transitioned to executive mayor. So at a personal level, it was also just to accept certain things that they need to change. Socially, it's not the same. I mean, you know, you used to just call your friend and say, can we take a trip somewhere? You can't do those things anymore. So at a personal level, I think it's just the appreciation of the opportunity, because if you look at the composition of our coalition, ours is the third biggest party in the coalition, and for us to get the mayoral candidature, yes, there were reasons why it was agreed that I was the best person to lead the coalition, but I know that I don't take that for granted. So personally, I'm very grateful that I was given the opportunity, but also to be able to do something about that opportunity, especially in a city like Tshwane that is as complex as it is.
Absolutely, and I'm sure governing in a coalition comes with its own complexities. As you've rightly mentioned, you're the third biggest party in that coalition. How do you balance the interests of your coalition partners, who may have more councillors than you do, with your party interests, and weighing up what is best for the city of Tshwane and the residents of Tshwane?
Yes, and just to give you an idea, so city of Tshwane has 14 political parties in council. 9 now form this coalition. So imagine the ideology of the EFF, African National Congress, Action SA, PAC of Azania, IDP, you know, the DOP, and so it's complex from that point of view, that we are parties that don't have a lot of common ideological factors. That's number one. Number two, when you have a situation like that, you need to empower coalition partners, that they are able to raise their views, but also they have a say in making sure that they represent their constituencies. So from my side, I've centralized decision making, centralized in a sense that there are decisions that we make together as a coalition. So in my MACO, of the 9 parties, we have the representatives of the ANC, EFF, Action SA, and the Progressive Caucus. So we have one good member, but she represents the Progressive Caucus. So we've got our ordinary MACO meetings. We then have war rooms. Ordinarily, so the service delivery war room, ordinarily you just give it, for instance, to one MMC to run with service delivery. Every Friday at 7:30, we get a report on service delivery progress. What did we do the previous week? What should we look forward to? And then us as political leaders, we then raise issues that we want them to put emphasis on. So that's the first war room. Then the other example, we've got an economic growth committee. The constitution says that as executive mayor must lead that, but there's an MMC for economic development. But for you to achieve economic development, you need the infrastructure departments and other support. And so we've got a war room for economic growth in the city of Tshwane. All of us are members. So we centralize the key decisions that need to be made so that when you make a decision, then you can implement. You don't open a room where it was one MMC that ran with a program and then infused a political ideology and left other coalition partners out. And I think it's the best way to do it. It takes longer to make decisions, but when you take a decision, you then move. But also, when you do operations, you do it as a team. You agree on a program and say, what are we dealing? What are the, for instance, the security threats in the city currently? And with the issues of hijacked buildings, at some point was a thorn on our side. We then put together a team of MMCs and say, can you lead this program for us? And they come from different political parties. So for me, the lesson so far is that to make a coalition to succeed, one, recognize you're in a coalition, because other people forget and they get obsessed by the title that they have, not the environment that they are in. Understand that for you to get your decisions accepted, you must take people through, you must consult, you must get views, you must be open to be led. and so those are some of the way in which we work with people. Generally, I'm not a person who's a difficult person to work with, so teamwork for me doesn't bother me. I can do it. But to understand also the other political parties, like what do they care? What does EFF care about? What does ANC care about? What does DOP care about? And how do you then pull this together to come up with something that will work? And I think we've done fairly well the past 12 months in that.
What is your relationship with the unions in Tshwane? I know that there's been a tempestuous relationship with the unions with previous administrations, but have you been able to build bridges with the unions? Are you working with the unions? There's allegations that the union members didn't want to work at times, that they weren't providing the services that they were paid for the residents of Tshwane. Tell me about that relationship.
So the first stakeholder we met in October 2024 when we came in was Labour. And at the time, as you correctly say, the relationship wasn't good at all, because remember, there were 2 financial years in which they were not paid increases as officials of the city, because the city didn't have money. And so we then take over with this relationship with unions. The first meeting, they raised obviously the issue of the outstanding increases, and there was a court case that was coming up. They raised the issue that in the ground floor in Tshwane House, or first floor in Tshwane House where the headquarters are, it's a slaughterhouse when it comes to disciplinary matters. They raise issues of PPE, their members don't have correct PPE, they are not safe, and so these are issues that they raise with us. And so we then said to them, the issue of the increases, can we go back to a negotiating table and see if we can find each other without going to court? And the other issues, we'll fix them. We'll make sure that we fix them. Anyway, so that a relationship, then the way we started it, I think it worked in a sense that we promised them, we are there not to fight with them. In fact, they must see us as partners, because we need their members for us to succeed. And so while we didn't get, it was not an ideal negotiating, outcomes in terms of the salary increases, that we ended up going to court anyway. But when they went to court, we said the outcomes of the court case, we're not going to challenge them. Even if it's not in our favor, we're not going to appeal anything, but let's go to court. That was our compromising position. Anyway, court outcomes come out and say, no, you set aside one, and but we then said, even if the court says go back, can we still try to talk about the 1 year, which is 3.5%? But during all of this, we've never had issues until recently, when someone was unhappy with us. And that we said, even when we meet with them in the corridors, guys, we're not fighting with you. It's not in our interest as your leaders to fight with you. But let's go back to negotiating table. We're already at the bargaining council. You've got our undertaking that we want to pay the 3.5%. Let's go and finish the modalities. But outside the issue of the increases, that has been just a thorn on the side of some. The issues that they've raised, issues of PPE, OHS, and the issues of the disciplinary matters, those are things that have been receiving our attention. And they, other than the issue with SAMO and the 3.5%, I think we have a very healthy relationship with Labour, because it's been intentional to make it that way. When we had a strat plan, we invited them and we asked for their views, said this is what the direction we want the city to take. Are you part of it? Do you believe that this is the direction we ought to be taking? Yes. Do you believe that our mechanisms will get us there? Yes. They're like, okay, then now we can move, because you'll be able to explain it to your members when we do this work, why we do the work that we do. So I would say the relationship is healthy, but I think the main thing, if we can just resolve the issue of the outstanding increase, I think I would be very happy, because it becomes that lingering thing, and this is the increase they were supposed to get in the 2021-2022 financial year. So it becomes this lingering effect even in our relationship, that you know that needs to be resolved.
How far away are you from resolving that?
I'm hoping not too far, because we are back at bargaining council, but in our budgeting, we are setting aside the funds. We are looking now to make sure that during the adjustment budget, we should have confirmed and taken the amount to council, but we won't be able to take the amount to council until we finalize the modalities. It's quite clearly. They will be paid the 3.5%. It's just the modalities. Which year, how are you doing it? So there's just the modalities that needs to be finalized at bargaining council.
Okay. What has surprised you most about the realities of running a metro compared to what you expected when you first came into office?
Oh man, every day, like you go through 5 different emotions in a space of an hour. Like in the morning, like someone is happy, the 2 hours later someone is unhappy, 2 hours later it's a different story. Like that metro is big. Governing over 4 million people is no child's play. So you go through all the emotions of these people in a week. I mean, I check just track my screen time and what I used it for. Geez, man, so many issues. And for me, because I'm trained as a governance expert, right? And everything for me, it's with the systems and procedures. So I'm always, if we have a problem, how do we institutionalize the response? But it's more about a human being says, I know I can go to the customer care center, but I need to talk to the mayor about this. But the mayor doesn't work with that. The people are there. But people still believe in the mayor as their leader. When they have an event, they want to see the mayor, and they won't even ask you for anything, just be present and say something. That has been a culture shock to me, by the way. You must say something, and they believe in it. If they do anything, so if a person has a company in Tshwane, they want to tell me about it. I must know about it.
Yes.
And I thought we were moving as society, like from idealizing politicians or political leaders. No, we're not there yet. I think that has been a shock. In addition to the emotions that go like this every day, because there's a crisis, there's a success, there's progress, there's someone sabotaging the progress, and that's basically every day, by the way. But the relationship with the citizens, where people just want a relationship with you as the mayor. And, you know, when I go to communities, some of them I actually think they don't even know the party I'm from, and they don't care. As long as you are the mayor, you are our people, our person. We must tell you our stories. We must tell you what frustrates us, and you must resolve all of that. You don't tell us about other people. So that it's been a culture shock. It's been
You spoke about coalitions and the way the writings on the wall in South Africa, that most likely we're going to govern. Coalitions are here with us for a long time, all right? And coalitions are often criticized as unstable. From your experience, what does it actually take to make a coalition government work? And what are the hidden costs of stability?
The hidden cost of stability is those 10 phone calls you need to make before you can make a decision. That's the time invested, the personal relationships you need to build with the people who are now your colleagues. They may have been your opposition in the past, but they are now your colleagues that you need to take into your confidence about what you are thinking, what your intentions are, and what is important to you, so that when you do something, they don't start questioning your intentions, whether you are still for the good of the coalition or not. So that's the hidden cost. The hidden cost is on you suspending your beliefs to borrow someone's belief, because they may get it better than you do. You know, there are things I always say. For instance, when we plan for operations, and say for argument's sake, we're gonna go to the streets. You know, say informal traders, taxis. We want to clean the CBD. What you get from the ANC as their approach, and what you get from EFF as their approach, and what we get from Action SA as their approach, two different things, right? And now, at some point, you must be done in terms of saying this is the approach we're going to be taking when you go out there, and you borrow from this, and then you must come with consensus. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to communicate it to the residents, so that our intention is not questioning it. So that's the hidden cost. But I promise you, I know it's idealistic of me to think of this way, right? Coalitions are good to build this country. Why am I saying so? If you have a party that gets to dominate, they end up only serving those that have voted for them, their constituencies, because they understand them. And you leave out the others that you don't understand. Their priorities are not infused. Ideally, in a coalition, you then get these constituencies. It's not smooth, by the way, it's clumsy. But you then get to have a MACO that is represented by different components of your society, and each person having the power to be at the table and negotiate for those constituencies. And the environment forces you to listen to those people, because without them, you won't be able to push for other priorities, right? So you are quite interlinked in that way. So while, I was talking to a colleague that has left for Polokwane municipality, and I asked, what is the difference between Tshwane and Polokwane? He said there's one center in Polokwane, right? Because the mayor and the MMCs are from the same party. And he says it's easier to implement, because if it's said by one person, which is the mayor, everyone just follows suit. But he says, but I miss the excitement of a coalition. Because in a coalition, you kind of relax. Every decision to be taken, it must be canvassed, it must be debated robustly, and there must be a winning view. And that view is what will then all of you must rally behind. Whether if you've lost in the argument, then you've lost. You had an opportunity. So yes, the future of governance in our country is going to be coalition. There's no if and when about it. But I want people to start accepting that and not, crave for what is gone, which is now we're going to have this one party dominating, and start saying what kind of personalities can make a coalition to work. You can't come and want to bully people while you don't have the majority.
Yeah.
And so the leaders now must also start orientating themselves. If I'm in a coalition, do I have negotiating skills? Am I clear about the priorities that my party is bringing? Are we clear about the offering that our party is bringing to this center? And do we have the right people to go and represent? Because you find that in a coalition, people start to complain and say, this party is taking all the credit. This party is... No, it's because of how they've decided to either communicate their successes in a coalition, or their presence, or the platforms that they're using. And it means that all of you must be aware of that. And you must then, when you go as a party, but when you get to the center, it's a melting pot, because you are one team. You can't run a coalition from 4 different corners. So I think there's a lot of work, especially with the leaders that are likely to form coalitions, oversee them, but mostly those that will be entrusted with the responsibility to be actors as office bearers in coalitions, that they must start deciding what kind of skills do they bring to a coalition to make it work. Because the fear now is like, but coalitions won't work, why not? What is the alternative? When you have a situation where there's no one party with a majority, you don't have a choice but to make coalitions work. But what kind of work do we do now to make sure that coalitions work in South Africa?
Which brings me to my next question. After next year's local government elections, is there any party that you will say, I don't want to work with this party in a coalition government? Is there a red line? Is there a line in the sand?
In local government, no. I think maybe one day when we talk national government, yes. I think what you focus on in local government is issues. If for instance Action SA says we want insourcing, we want to build internal capacity, and that party doesn't agree, for instance, and then you say on an issue by issue basis, I can make the decision and say, and also take into consideration the context. I don't think, say between Ekurhuleni, Tshwane and Joburg, I don't think we're going to use exactly the same points to negotiate what would be priorities. For instance, in Joburg, as Action SA, when we were getting into that arrangement, it was not necessarily a coalition where we got a speaker's position. We then said there's a fixed charge that we want to be reversed. It's just about the fixed charge in Joburg. That was very important. In Ekurhuleni, it was when we were in a coalition with the DA. The issue there was that the executive mayor was absolutely failing to deliver in townships. And we said, we pulled out early of that, if you remember, out of that coalition. In Tshwane, it was also based on the services that were not going to the townships. And we said, no, but we can't be part of it. So I don't think we can use a blanket approach in terms of negotiating. I think each team, the team that will be negotiating for Joburg, they must say what would be the red lines for Joburg, what would be the red lines for Tshwane, what would be the red lines for Ekurhuleni, for eThekwini, for whichever municipality we can partake in terms of government. But I think it makes it clear, it makes it easy if we are clear what is it that we are offering, so that whoever partner with us know what they're getting themselves into. I think the first phase of our coalition in Tshwane, it was a lot of fighting, whether it's about Hammanskraal water, whether it's about insourcing, whether it was constant fighting, because it's as if we said these things, we were admitted in the coalition, and when we started expecting implementation, then it was like, no, that's not the priority, but it's our priority. So but there are no red lines that are blanket across the municipalities. Each team will have to identify those.
Case by case, basically.
Yes.
Looking ahead to next year's local government elections, what do you think voters will be looking for the most, and how are you preparing Tshwane to reflect that demand?
I think voters, there's a sense of a movement in our communities these days. Voters, and by the way, it's not new, voters have silently protested before. If you look at our voter turnout, and we read studies where voters said, but issues of accountability, we vote these people, we hear from them at the beginning of the term, end of the term, nothing in between. So we are not in charge of these people. We vote them in, we have no mechanisms to hold them accountable. They don't tell us what's happening. So we hear that this is a governance crisis, especially in relation to the relationship between the citizens and the institution that is government, whether that is a municipality. And so voters started to protest silently. They took their presence at the voting station and said, we're not going to go vote. We'll go fend for ourselves, look for the opportunities to feed ourselves on that particular day. Our voter turnout dipped. But more and more we see communities being active. And there was a time where they would protest by violently, but now we're seeing communities protesting peacefully and telling you what they need.
Is that a maturing of our democracy?
I would love to think so, and I would love if that's the case. Because remember, we used to complain to say, but when you are protesting and burning a school, it's your children that are going to suffer. I think communities took it. Oh, okay, fine, we're not going to do it anymore. Not that it's 0%, right? But anyway, so where we are, we have communities and community leaders that will be more popular than their ward councillors, because they are talking about issues that affect them directly. And those guys will tell you, we don't want to be politicians. We just want to lead our communities to seek for relief on their challenges. And so I think for 2026, the communities will be asking, what is your offer as an individual who wants to be our ward councillor? Do you understand what our challenges? How will you help resolve those challenges? So I think communities will be less on the political party and the brand, the loyalty to the brand, but to the people who will say, but this is what I understand to be a challenge, is that this is what we'll do about it. There's something I'm observing, the rise of groups like Dudula, or Operation Dudula, for instance. At least on social media, they seem to be getting a lot of support because they are doing what politicians cannot do. So we also see now where there's an alternative, even in leadership, where people trust an Operation Dudula more than their ward councillor to do the work they consider to be a work that is supposed to be done by government. Where South Africa says we've got a health crisis, this is what we think is the cause for the crisis, and then government doesn't do anything about it according to the communities. Communities say, well, this is how we can do it, and they do it, and community members are like, oh, sharp, this it works. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic in 2026, that we may see people like looking for individuals that they can that speak the same language as them, but also looking for alternatives to politicians as we know them. That normally you would have this councillor, in the community, you've known them, but now even old people are looking for just even a girl who we raised here, who stands for something. You're like, let's support this person. So it's going to be very interesting going into 2026, but I think it's time. It may sound chaotic, it may be chaotic, that I think it's time that we test the strength of our democracy in a way that is not disruptive to South Africa. Anything is like a reset of some sort, that when we go to 2026, we must not expect that it's going to be business as usual. And it's good for communities that they're starting to stand up for themselves.
Absolutely. And you mentioned organizations like Operation Dudula. We have in KZN the March and March movement. I know that local government elections is really about the bread and butter of South African politics, but sometimes national politics seeps into local government politics, as you might know. And Action SA is one of the few political parties in South Africa who has had a stance on illegal foreigners in South Africa. How will your policies, if you become mayor again in 2026, reflect national sentiment in the city of Tshwane?
On illegal immigration.
On legal immigration.
This one, to me at least, it looks pretty straightforward. And it is pretty straightforward. We already have laws in the country. We don't need to devise policies. The stance is that in terms of the laws of this republic, if you don't have papers, you have no business being in our country. Right? The question is, what do you then do when you find people without papers but in your country anyway? We know this responsibility is with Home Affairs. But for years, we've been talking about porous borders. I remember there was even a scandal about some fence that DPWI was trying to build there at the bridge, at the cross border. What I have been doing in Tshwane, and made it very clear even to communities, Metro Police Department must build a relationship with Home Affairs and South African Police Service. When we find an illegal immigrant in the city of Tshwane, that person must be rooted out of our communities, handed over to Home Affairs and SAPS, and they must not be found in our communities again. And there's a reason for that. I mean, the past 12 months, I say the launching pad of my mayorship was when we had kids dying because they were eating wrong things from spaza shops. When you go into a spaza shop, you then ask, whose spaza shop does this belong to? So and so. So and so, where are you from? Bangladesh. Can I see your papers? I don't have. Do you have a license to open this spaza shop? No. Where is your database for suppliers so I can check where you bought this stuff? I don't have. Oh, it's some fake manufacturer somewhere there. And I said, that's number one. Number two, these guys that we have arrested who are illegal immigrants, they went to the townships, started renting houses and taking people's title deeds, and they will give them 2,000 a month in return. And hijacked buildings are full of illegal immigrants there. And I'm saying, this is not even a theoretical matter to resolve. This is a day-to-day community struggle that we as government, we must work together to resolve. So I'm saying in the city of Tshwane, Metropolis understands how immigration laws work, and we are saying if you encounter an illegal immigrant, take that person, hand them over to be processed. However, there are leaks in the system. I make this example that there's a gentleman that got arrested 3 times in different occasions in my presence in Pretoria West. They get a release back to communities. And I'm saying it can't be that we are saying local government is resource strained. There are no finances in local government. We are struggling to cater for those who are paying for services because the demand is more than the money that we have. We still have to supply or deliver services to people we don't even know are in our cities. I'm told in the city of Tshwane, the number of unaccounted illegal immigrants may be more than 2 million.
Wow.
Where do you think, which sewer system are they using? Which water are they drinking? Which electricity are they using? Roads, which roads are they using? Because all the infrastructure that is in Tshwane is supposed to cater for the 4 million that I'm talking about, that I know of. When you now have 6 million, how can infrastructure not collapse? Right? So I'm saying the issue of illegal immigration, must first be understood as an issue of the law. We don't have laws that are iffy when it comes to illegal immigration. So firstly, let's implement the laws of the country. Secondly, let's understand the impact of illegal immigration for local government. What is the impact of having resources that are meant for 4 million but essentially catering for 6 million? And what is the day-to-day impact on those residents that are sharing space with people they don't know? You know, sometimes you get a call, we found 2 bodies dead in Hammanskraal. No, the guy who was arrested, illegal foreigners. 2 weeks ago, we arrested an illegal foreigner. He says he's from Nigeria, selling drugs to our kids. And I'm saying, I don't think there will be 0% crime when illegal immigrants are not in the country. I'm just saying, at least give us our citizens and legal foreigners that we are able to trace when they start tormenting communities. So for me, it's as easy as that. And that's why I don't bite my tongue when I talk about illegal immigration, because at some point, the laws of this country must be respected. There is no theory that will make it right for people to just rock up in our country without necessary papers. So I'm always happy when I hear that there are officials that are arrested at the border because they were selling papers or they were admitting people in. Or the other day in Tshwane, we caught a bus with 34 illegal immigrants. 17 were kids, like 2-year-old, 3-year-olds. And I'm told they are coming because they have to register for school. Which schools? We are struggling to keep up with the demand that we have of the kids that we give birth to here in South Africa. Now you still have 17 kids on any given day can just pounce with the bus to be registered where. So for me, that's why I don't bite my tongue. Illegal immigration, it may not be a mandate of local government, but it's got a real impact at local government level. And therefore, all mayors must take that issue seriously.
Will illegal immigration become a campaign point?
No.
Do you think that political parties will use illegal immigration as part of their campaigning for next year's local government issue, even though it might be attached to a national issue? But could it be used? Can you say, would there be promises made? Could you specifically use this and say, as a mayor, you'll stamp out illegal immigration?
I think it's one of the issues that are making communities very uncomfortable, but it can't be the only issue. Remember, a mayoral candidate or ward councillor candidate, you must campaign on the issues that are a mandate of local government. But you can't ignore the issue of illegal immigration, because you can talk about, I want to make sure that I deliver services to the people. But this has emerged as a threat to delivering on the mandate of delivering services to the people, because essentially you've got more than the people that you are supposed to be catering for. So you can't ignore the issue, but it's not the only issue. Or you can't say, I'm framing my local government manifesto on illegal immigration alone. But it's an issue that has emerged that threatens your manifesto, your ideal manifesto for local government. It's like now the issue of drugs and substance abuse. You cannot not talk about it, because either you talk from a logistics point of view, where your roads are being used to traffic drugs into cities, or from the kids that we see when we go to townships. Those kids, they call Nyayope. I hate that thing of calling them Nyayope boys. But these kids are destroyed because they get this crystal meth for $50, $20. Then you have people who make them pull that, the recyclers, they are called informal recyclers. They are doing it for people who are making money out of it. They give them 50 rands, enough to go and get a fix. Following day, they repeat the same. That is becoming, if you are talking about the future of young people in this country, if you do not pay attention on drugs and substance abuse, they sell them at schools. They sell them at taxi ranks. At a school where you have 15-year-olds, they have access to drugs. Right? And I'm saying, so these are issues that as leaders, you can't ignore them and say, I'm boxing myself to only water and electricity. but you can't lead a high nation. I mean, in Tshwane, 54% of our residents are 35 years and younger. Now, I cannot not talk about drugs and substance abuse because they threaten the same residents that I am serving. So illegal immigration is a big threat, and all of us as South Africans, we must be concerned about what do we do with the people that are here illegally. Where do they stay? What do they eat? How do they make their money? How do they consume our services? Are they paying for our services? And we must then say, are we willing to share our society with people we don't know who they are, where they come from? We must be concerned. The people that deliver your Uber Eats, what if they do something to you? Who's going to trace them if they don't have papers? And so it's not a national issue that is far from our realities. These are people, we interact with them. I mean, people then hire someone to cut grass. You just grab a person from the street to allow them in your house. They don't have papers. You don't check for papers because you want to think this issue is far from you. So the issue of illegal immigration is a domestic issue as much as it is a national issue. And all of us, not only as leaders, but as citizens, we must talk about it. But as for the campaign, local government, you know what the Constitution says about local government and its mandate and the associated legislation. Will you be able to deliver on that constitutional mandate? You must be able to answer that. But when you reflect on how will you be doing it, you must then do your risk assessment or your SWOT analysis and say, if I were to deliver on the mandate of local government, I need to deal with this threat. I must maximize on the strength and so so that would be
Thank you. Last question. We don't know the future and whether you will still be mayor come this time next year or whenever the election is held. But if you could define your legacy in one sentence, what do you want Tshwane residents to remember about your time as mayor?
As a mayor that would have created economic opportunities and made it normal to get services from government. If they can just remember those two things, I think I'll be happy.
Have you delivered on that?
So far, yes. Within the limited time that I've had, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
That was not